Hey everybody, this is Doa back with another game between mTwDimaga and his opponent LiquidTLO. Again, these games were played at BlizzCon about a week ago, and TLO not doing the best. The first game tried a really interesting Infestor Spinecrawler push, but it couldn't hold up to Dimaga's standard Roach Infestor play, so we're going to have to see if TLO plays a little bit more standard this game, or if Dimaga, or if TLO rather, decides to do the typical TLO thing and be ultra creative but also ultra risky at the same time. TLO just has this ability to make things work though, so we'll have to see what happens. And both players spawning at close positions by air on Metalopolis here, and they will both find each other right away. We've got the two overlords giving each other an overlord high five as they pass by. Have to be a long high five, have to stretch out the tentacles there. Overlord trick going for TLO. And there's been a lot of debate on whether that Overlord trick is really worth it or not, and I think it all comes out to it being about the same, so TLO's still favoring that Overlord trick. I think you see him doing it in most of his Zerg games. Then again, he hasn't played Zerg quite as much since the beta, so he may still be kind of picking up his I guess, Zerg tendencies yet, since he is newer to being a Zerg on the pro scene. Or at least a declared Zerg anyway. Looks like TLO going to do a little bit of looking at his opponent's base. Both players just building up minerals at this point. It'll be interesting to see what both players do. These positions are not terribly close by ground, so we're probably not going to see any sort of, cheesy baneling all-ins from either player. That's starting to be a little bit less popular in Zerg versus Zerg anyway. At the pro level, I think you still see it quite a bit in the ladders, but not so much in tournaments. Looks like we do have both players putting out their first expansions here. So both players just going hatch first, knowing that they've got the time to do a more economy-heavy style build. Gas just going down now for Dimaga, and no gas yet for TLO, so we're going to have to see what he plans to do with that. Drone just kind of sitting there. Okay. Well, and it's TLO. I'm shocked. So TLO deciding to opt for the hatch into hatch build, and yeah, not quite sure what he'd be planning on doing with this. There is a little bit of space here, so this isn't really even a wall off. Not really sure how he'd be able to use all those drones early on, or all those larvae really early on. Maybe thinking of cutting queens possibly. Tough to see at this point. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens after this. He is also getting that spawning pool right now that did go down just after the third hatchery, and TLO also getting his first gas, so I think Dimaga is going to be very surprised and possibly a little bit confused when he comes into TLO's base. In the meantime, Dimaga's pool also just finishing, and 4 Zerglings on the way for Dimaga. And he also is getting that Zergling speed too, so Dimaga actually planning to do some sort of early aggression, it looks like, in this fight. In the meantime, spawning pool finishing for TLO, as well as this third hatchery, and it looks like we've got a Roach Warren that's going to finish off what looks to be more or less a wall off, making any Zerglings coming from his opponent take a really long way around to get into the main. So possibly being a little bit secretive about what he's planning, other than that he is planning on getting some sort of early Roach. In the meantime, we do have Zergling speed about halfway done for Dimaga. Let's just take a look at Dimaga's base. Queen out at the second hatch ready, and those first Zerglings are getting over for Dimaga, but TLO meets him with quite a few Zerglings of his own, so TLO able to chase Dimaga back towards his base, and we have a little bit more Zergling on Zergling action. They are going to take out one from Dimaga and force him back, as we notice up in the production queue. TLO also getting his first Roach right now. Evolution Chamber going down for Dimaga right here. And so TLO is going to do a little bit of a poke into his opponent's base. Not really going to be able to cause any damage with that amount of Zerglings for Dimaga, but he is going to be able to see what's going on at the natural. In the meantime, more Zerglings coming out for Dimaga, kind of pushing TLO back a little bit. So early in the game, a lot of Zerglings for both players. You usually don't see them get so many Zerglings early in the game, but I'm guessing those Overlords did spot it. In the meantime, it looks like TLO is able to take out the Zerglings. No, I take it back. Dimaga able to take out the Zerglings for TLO now that speed has finished, and he is getting that missile upgrades level 1 as well, so it looks like he is planning on transitioning again into Hydra Roach. TLO doing a good job of blocking off that ramp though, but that does allow Dimaga to go to work on that Roach Warren, which may go down. That's a lot of Zerglings, but I think TLO is going to be able to hold him off with those Roaches. So TLO actually completing a nice wall off with those Roaches, not letting Dimaga rather get in there and cause any problems for these drones. So, so far so good for this weird 3-hatch opening that TLO is doing. able to make good use of blocking that, almost like he knew Dimaga was going to go for some sort of mass speedling early on. In the meantime, we do have a Roach Warren for Dimaga going down, as well as getting those upgrades at the Evolution Chamber. Dimaga sort of lurking outside of the base of TLO at the moment. Meantime, with TLO, he is just getting his second gas now. No sign of lair or anything yet. Looks like Dimaga still wants to move in and do some sort of damage to it. Going to work on that third hatchery for TLO. And it is kind of a wide area for TLO to defend, so it's going to be interesting to see if Dimaga can take out any of these buildings. Those roaches with range 4 now able to just barely poke at the Zerglings as they go after the hatchery. Looks like Dimaga thinking about committing, but just deciding it's not quite yet the time. In the meantime, we do have a third gas going down for Dimaga. Is going to have to prepare to do a lot of gas type stuff with those roach hydras. Did I just say gas type stuff? Oh yeah, in StarCraft you need to do some gas type stuff at 2-2. Gas type stuff strategy, go. Anyway, we do have a lair going down for TLO. So TLO planning on upping the tech a little bit here. In the meantime, we do have a few scouts going across the map. TLO, again, not getting that Zergling speed, which I don't know if I quite agree with. Pretty much every Zerg player is getting that nowadays, as far as I'm aware anyway. Maybe Zerg players can clarify that for me. As my mouse freaks out for a second there. So TLO able to get into the natural, or main rather, of Dimaga and see those evolution chambers and the Roach Warren. So it's basically going to give away what Dimaga is planning. Although with the type of defensive play that Dimaga's been doing, it's really not going to matter if his opponent knows what's coming or not. And Dimaga as well doing a little bit of a different sort of defense than he did last game. With this wide open natural, he's not quite able to cover it with the spine crawlers like he could in the last game, instead opting to get a good group of speedlings to kind of keep an eye on things. Meantime, we do have, thought I saw an Overseer out here somewhere. Oh, there it is, yeah, Overseer for TLO, taking a look at things, but it might actually go down. Only 8 hit points, or 18 hit points left on that Overseer, so TLO's going to have to be very careful about that. In the meantime, Dimaga swinging around looking for other bases that his opponent might be putting up, coming back down to the natural of TLO. In the meantime, a few spine crawlers out for TLO, and he is massing up some roaches. And we do also have an infestation pit down for TLO, getting that pathogen glands to get a little bit more energy for the infestors. So changing things up a little bit, TLO going for roach infestor this time, which has been a very stable way to go in ZvZ lately. I saw a game, or I casted a game rather, between Slush and Moonglade a while ago, where Moonglade made very good use of Hydra Infestor. So Infestor is a good thing to get against your opponent in Zerg versus Zerg in most cases. Obviously, if your opponent does something like Mutalisks, I don't think it'd be quite as good. And Dimaga still just sitting outside of range, trying to make sure that TLO can't take that third base, but it looks like TLO is going to move in here and try to take